Will you be there where I can
I'm
wait?
gonna sit right here. I'll
Okay.
watch.
Okay.
About 10 seconds till we go live. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Likeable Leaders. I am your host, Dave Kerpen, and I can't wait to spend the next 20 minutes or so with you talking about likable leadership principles. I am ridiculously excited about my guest today. Joel Peterson is the chairman of JetBlue Airways. He is a longtime Stanford professor. He is the author of The 10 Laws of Trust, and now the author of a brand new book that I'm super excited about talking about in just a moment, Entrepreneurial Leadership, the Art of Launching New Ventures, Inspiring Others, and Running Stuff. And by the way, before we meet Joel, I got to tell you, I'm giving away copies of the book throughout the next 20 minutes. And the only way to win a copy is to comment on this live stream. So give us a comment. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if you have any insights or thoughts about what it is we're talking about. Let us know any questions that you have for me or for Joel. And every time you post a comment, you are entered to win one of these books. And I'm going to give away some live, I'm going to call out some live winners, and then we'll save a couple of winners for later and give away some copies of the book. Without further ado, welcome, Joel, to Likeable Leaders, and thanks so much for joining us.
Dave, great to be with you. I'm excited to be with you too.
Thanks so much for joining us again. And by the way, one other thing I forgot to mention is that we have my good friends from ImageSync, imagesync.net are here. They're actually going to be recording the stuff that we talk about visually and sharing it with you all. So we have a visual asset. So thanks to Ariel for doing that. And I can't wait to share that with our audience. So first and foremost, where are you today, and how long have you been in your quarantine?
So I'm in Salt Lake. We have kind of a soft quarantine here, but we're still locked down. So I'm not doing any traveling at all. And I've been here for probably 7 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, we're going on week eight here in New York. And you've got a wonderful background behind you. Is that Salt Lake that I'm looking at? What am I looking at behind you?
No, that's Stanford.
That's Stanford. Okay, so it's as if you are it's if you are lecturing for Stanford today. That's very
exactly. Yeah, and I'm enjoying the great weather there, which is almost always looks like what you're seeing in the picture.
It's always nice weather when you have a virtual background
yeah, exactly.
to remind you of the nice weather. Fantastic. So entrepreneurial leadership, the art of launching new ventures, inspiring others, and running stuff. From what I have already read, I absolutely love this. I was saying in the pre-interview that I think we have quite a bit in common in terms of our philosophy. Tell me a little bit about why you wrote this book when you did, and the main thrust of the book, if you could.
So I had taught entrepreneurial leaders for about 28 years at Stanford. And I really realized that some of them would go out and start new businesses or join fledgling businesses and then run into all kinds of problems. And I knew that they knew the principles, but they had just not implemented them yet. They didn't have the checklists to be careful and thoughtful and intentional. And so I thought, I'm going to gather these all together and put them down. I used kind of the image of a pilot. We have 20, 25-year pilots at JetBlue, and they go over the checklist every single time they fly, even though they probably could recite it by memory. So these are really intended to be maps that will help any entrepreneur be successful in launching, running, or turning around a business.
I love it. So like any great entrepreneur, you saw the problem. In this case, your students not necessarily having the roadmap. And so you solved the problem by creating the roadmap for them. That is wonderful. Talk to me about a couple of the, I know that trust is very, very important to you. And I can't help but very selfishly note that likability is also something that you write about. Talk to me a little bit about why trust and likability are so important for entrepreneurial leaders.
Well, trust to me is the operating system of a great business and of a life well led. It's very tough for a leader to build a high trust organization, which can act quickly, can change directions, can reduce friction, if he or she is not trustworthy. And so to me, it starts with becoming a trustworthy person, becoming a fiduciary. And then the principle of likability. I actually worked in the beginning of my career for a fellow by the name of Trammell Crow, and he said he liked to hire likable people. That was the number one thing he was looking for. He felt like, I can teach him the real estate industry, I can teach him the market, I can teach him how to sell, I can teach him all kinds of things. But likability is something that is very hard to teach somebody. So I probably picked that first up from Trammell.
I love it. Of course, I believe strongly that people, buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And to your point, to Trammell's point, there's so much that can be taught, but we can't teach likability necessarily. We can't teach integrity necessarily. And so these are the things that I look for when I think about, bringing on people in my businesses. What are some other principles? Oh, I love this. We also have this in common. My last book, The Art of People, and here you've got The Art of Launching New Ventures. So it's a checklist, which is a science, but it's also an art, right? I mean, talk to me a little bit about how you see that that difference, right? How is it both a science and an art?
Well, I think there is this thing called instinct that is the art, where you actually have seen the movie a number of times and you start to develop a pattern recognition. And there's kind of an art around that. I believe in instinct. I think you have to be careful about following your emotions. I think emotions can lead you astray, but instinct is pretty powerful.
Love it. If you're just joining us, I am live with Joel Peterson, the chairman of JetBlue Airways and the author of Entrepreneurial Leadership, The Art of Launching New Ventures, Inspiring Others, and Running Stuff. If you have questions for Joel, post them. And actually, I want to choose a winner. So Sam from my team, if you can choose somebody randomly that has commented on our live stream, and that's going to be the first winner of Joel's book, Entrepreneurial Leadership. Joel, it would be very, very foolish of me to interview a terrific, accomplished executive and leader such as yourself and not talk about the very obvious. COVID-19 has been truly the disruption of all of our lifetimes. It basically changes everything. How are you thinking about the impact on the world? I mean, this is going to be, I'm warning, it's going to be kind of a crazy big question. How are you thinking about the impact on the world, the impact on the business world, and then the impact on JetBlue? So obviously, all three are very affected. And while you take one more moment to think about that, I have my winner. Look at this, live TV. Deborah Gorman. Congratulations, Deborah Gorman. You're the first winner of Joel's book. Congratulations, Deborah Gorman. And if you're everyone in the world but Deborah Gorman, what are you waiting for? You got to comment in order to win a book from Joel. So Joel, how are you thinking about how does COVID impact the world, the business world, and the JetBlue outlook?
Well, let's start with JetBlue because it's really a game changer there. We've grounded 170 airplanes. We are only flying about 3 or 5% full. We're staying with our core cities, but really we've cut way back and people just aren't traveling now. On the other hand, there's a lot of pent-up demand. I think people have canceled weddings, they've held off on getting together with families, et cetera. So I think you can be optimistic. We're going to have to add a layer of safety. Our number one value at JetBlue is safety. We're going to have to add a level of health safety to that, which probably means taking people's temperatures, making sure people aren't sitting too close to one another on the planes, and just sanitizing them between flights. So there are going to be a bunch of things, but it's the safest form of travel in the world, and it's going to be that again. And so I'm kind of an optimist. I think the models have given us a worst case. The denominator has been proven to be way too high. And now it looks like the numerator may be too high. And so I think we're going to start experimenting with some other ways of getting back to work. So I'm an optimist, and I think things will come back before many people thought they would.
I love your optimism. Dare I say, middle seats might be a thing of the past for a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think air filtration systems, although many people think that the air in an airplane, because you're all in there together, isn't very clean. We have incredible filtration systems, but my guess is we'll even up those a bit. So I think it's going to be the cleanest air in the world. It's going to be in that.
Dare I say it'll be safer once again. Of course, I know about the myth of the fact versus myth of air travel actually being much safer than car travel. I guess the new allegory might be that air travel might end up being a lot safer than going to a restaurant once it's all said and done.
It definitely will be.
Wow, so interesting. Okay, since we took that in reverse order, this is so disruptive to so many business verticals. Are there particular segments of business that you see being even more disrupted than others? Are there segments of business that you think will be safer than others? Are there segments of business that you think are in deep trouble? So, for instance, I mean, as big a fan as I am of travel, I think the cruise industry that's going to be a very, very tough one, for instance. But what are your thoughts about the impact of COVID on various business verticals?
Well, the cruise industry for sure, because you don't have the kind of air filtration and people are really jammed on a boat where they are there together for a long period of time. But the hotel industry is another one. I think you can see that motel occupancy is way down. People are being careful there. They're going to have to sanitize rooms. They're going to have to do a bunch of things. They may take people's temperature. They may do things before they're able to come back. There are some industries that have just continued to move along, in the trucking industry and a whole bunch of things. The medical industry, we're seeing things that are continuing on. There's a pent-up demand for surgeries that have been put on hold while this is gone on. I think that will explode once that is lifted. We have some businesses that are involved with sort of fulfillment. And so people are buying online now. And I think the fulfillment exercise is going to be even more vigorous than it's been in the past.
Right, makes sense. And then finally, I guess broadly speaking, any from my perspective, I think the future of offices need to be reimagined. And in thinking about how I'm opening my offices back up, we're already thinking about the extent to which we'll really deeply embrace on a long-term basis working from home. As an example, are there societal trends that you are thinking about, even beyond perhaps business, in terms of the impact of this?
Well, I think it has changed how we see things. Our family gets together by Zoom now. I think in the office, we're planning on having only half of the people come in at a time. So kind of switching off days. And so people are going to be working more from home. They're going to be working remotely. Virtual meetings will be more frequent, at least until we get through this initial shock. And my guess is it'll go on long enough that people will develop some new habits.
Totally. Okay, I have another winner. Congratulations, my second winner of Entrepreneurial Leadership, The Art of Launching New Ventures, Inspiring Others, and Running Stuff, to Diana Miranda. Diana Miranda, congratulations, and thanks so much for posting a comment or question, and keep those comments and questions coming. I am going to get into next the likable pyramid that I always talk about. So before I ask you, Joel, I'm going to share that with the audience if I can here. And I believe, Ariel, you have the likable pyramid ready to share. So I'm going to try to click on your screen. How do I do that? That could be the hard part. Well, here's the pyramid. That's cool. I just don't see it filled in quite yet. But maybe as I say it out loud, you'll fill it in. That would be very cool. Then I'll have to remember all 11 principles. So this is going to be the real test of whether I can do that offhand, because I do not have that book in front of me. Okay, so here we go. So Joel, I'm going to ask you which of these 11 principles resonate most with you. And I'm also going to ask our audience to share, post a comment with which principle most resonates with you. And I'm going to go through them at memory here. This could be fun and interesting. So we've got listening. We've got team playing. We've got passion. We've got authenticity. Oh, she's pulling it up. Very exciting. We've got responsiveness. We've got adaptability. I'm trying to stall. We've got gratefulness. That's 7 out of 11. Hold on, I've got it. Authenticity. Did I say transparency, Joel? Transparency. Ariel, if you can hear me, we want to pull up those all 11 principles from the pyramid. Maybe you can pull up that graphic for all of us. And what I want to do, sweet. What I want to do is ask the audience first. Which is your favorite principle of likable leadership? Which one do you think is the single most important? And also, and I'll have both the audience and Joel think about this. How if at all, has this changed? Right. So here we go. Thank you so much, Ariel. So listening, keep it up though for me. Yeah. Listening, storytelling, passion, teamwork, surprise and delight, responsiveness, simplicity. I can't see them anymore. Bring them back for me. Simplicity, adaptability, authenticity, transparency, and gratefulness. So which of those 11 resonate with you most? The audience, and then Joel, what do you think? Which resonates the most with you? And then how, if at all, has that changed with COVID?
Are you waiting to hear from the audience?
No, I'm ready for you. Well, the audience is
me-
going to tell us, but while they tell us, you go ahead and tell me what your thoughts are, Joel, if you could.
So you've got likable at the top, and I don't know if that's just the title of the pyramid, but I think likability is an incredibly important characteristic. And I think it'll actually be important going forward. I think one of the things that I've seen is a level of kindness that hasn't necessarily existed always in the past. I think people are amazingly kind and thoughtful in this period of time. So I think that'll continue forward. Another one that you've got there is gratitude. And I have found over the years that people who have gratitude are actually happier people. You know, they're not looking at the downside, they're looking at the upside. There's a phrase that I always like to use that is, it's always sunny above the clouds. And if you can get above the clouds, if you can get people that are grateful, they fly above the clouds and they see the sunshine and they radiate that to the rest of the team. So those are two of them. A third one that I think is really important that is maybe a little different word than you've used, but I believe very much that humility, vulnerability, the ability to listen to others. You learn, I think listening is the most important form of communication. And there aren't that many people who are really great listeners. So to me, that would be the third one that I would pick.
Love it. I'm going to reflect back on each of those things. So of course, likability is really for me the overall umbrella from which all of the other things sort of come, which is why it's at the top of the pyramid. I completely agree with you with respect to gratitude. I have actually found that it's the number one hack. I mean, it's very strange, but gratitude is, I use gratitude to put myself in a better mood. Literally, yep. If I'm down, I'll make a gratitude list. I'll write a thank you card. I watch my mood go from bad to good, good to great, great to ecstatic. And then I can then use that as a leader to impact other people. And to help my team. And so I'm always not only trying to tap into my own gratitude, Joel, but trying to help to teach that to the rest of my leaders and team members, because I think gratitude is like the game changer for me.
Well, if you think about it, Dave, if you find somebody that is under stress or has a problem or whatever, and you serve them, you really make a difference in their life. You feel gratitude. You don't feel like I have so many problems I'm worried about. You actually understand that you don't have the worst problems in the world, that a lot of people are facing more difficult things, and it allows you to move forward in really productive ways. So I think service goes right along with that.
Absolutely. With respect to vulnerability, it's not in the pyramid, but in the book, I loop in vulnerability with authenticity, right? Mm-hmm. So it's tapping into our authentic selves, even when it's not so great, even when we have to be vulnerable about things. You know, I had a session where with my executives from one of my companies where I started crying, and my first instinct was like, oh, hold back. And I said, you know what, just go with it. And you know what happened? It was unbelievable, Joel. Everybody was able to be vulnerable with one another. And we got to a level of trust that we had never had before. Never.
Well, I've just finished my third straight Churchill biography during this COVID thing. And I've noticed that one of the authors mentioned that he cried openly 50 times during World War II. The prime minister in front of people in cabinet meetings, whatever, he would openly cry.
Wow.
And we didn't think of him as less tough, less determined, less of a leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And finally, you talked about listening, and I couldn't agree with you more, Joel. I think that most people think they're good listeners, but they're really just waiting to talk. And there's
Exactly.
a huge difference between listening to understand and listening to respond. And so few, I mean, most humans don't get this right. Forget about leaders. I mean, of course, most leaders don't get this right, but most humans don't get this right. But when we can master that, by not only does it make you a much, much better leader, but thinking about you and your spouse, you and your kids, you and everyone, your relationships with pretty much everyone will open up when you can, or rather, I'll just speak from my own experience. As I have practiced becoming a better listener and getting more focused on listening to understand versus listening to reply, I know that my relationships with my employees, my investors, my customers, my wife, and my kids have all significantly improved.
And you might learn something.
You might actually learn something. It's amazing when you shut up and
Yeah.
listen, how much more you can learn than when you're talking. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm sure you've had the experience of talking with somebody when you can tell that they're merely quiet, waiting for the moment when you stop making a noise so they can make their point. That's not listening. That's just being quiet. And actually what happens is trust levels go down when you're with somebody like that.
Yeah. Totally agree. Okay, so we're running out of time because this has been amazing, but it's moved by so fast. I just can't believe it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take questions now. If anyone has a question, please post your questions for Joel or for me, and Sam from my team is going to send up a couple questions, and then we'll hop off. I can't keep Joel forever, guys. I do have another winner. Melissa Murphy. Congratulations, Melissa Murphy, who voted for authenticity, by the way. On our live stream. Melissa Murphy, send us your information and we will get out a copy of Joel Peterson's latest book, Entrepreneurial Leadership, The Art of Launching New Ventures, Inspiring Others, and Running Stuff. Love that title, by the way. And I was sharing with you before that one insight I've learned is that books definitely do. Everyone does, in fact, judge a book by its cover. And so the cover of a book and the title of a book and the subtitle of a book, as it turns out, are just very, very important. We have a question from, where was it? Hold on. From Humraj Singh, and I apologize if I've messed up your name, Humraj. Humraj Singh wants to know, if he has a nonprofit, are the principles of entrepreneurial leadership in your book here applicable to running a nonprofit as well? What would you say to him on that?
I would say absolutely. In fact, I think running nonprofits is one of the more entrepreneurial ventures you can be involved in. Maybe some of your values at the very top wouldn't be the same. The values that I put at the top of running for-profit businesses are: number one, profitable growth, and number two, respect for everybody: customers, employees, communities, shareholders, lenders, whatever. But those are the top values. Well, that might be a little different in a nonprofit, but fundamentally you have to figure out who are your constituents. You have to delight your constituents. You have to organize yourself in a way that you're able to deliver on promises. Ultimately, that's what builds trust. Is you have a brand, you make your brand as a promise, and you deliver on that promise, and you develop those kinds of relationships. And so this is a great checklist for thinking about that too.
Love that. I couldn't agree more. I wish more nonprofits were run like good startups. Unfortunately, so many nonprofits, as we both know, Joel, are a little bit tired in their thinking and can use a bit more entrepreneurial thinking, frankly. And so I certainly hope Humraj and others, if you're watching, if you're involved in nonprofit leadership, that you fully embrace, the stuff that Joel's talking about here, and just the ability to really think a little bit differently and think a little bit more entrepreneurially. I think that as a rule of thumb, nonprofits and the world will benefit if leaders do that. You're nodding, so I'm guessing you would agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've been run in a little bit squishy manner in the past without the kind of the metrics that are needed. And I actually think that a lot of these words that you've used, Dave, can be measured. They're things that are hard edged. They really have meaning. And I think once you start treating them with that level of respect, you find that they're quite powerful.
Yeah, there's a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners out there that I have found are a little bit resistant to some of these so-called soft skills and concepts. But of course, I couldn't agree with you more, Joel. I think that they're measurable, and the impact is frankly quite measurable and meaningful. And in my
Absolutely.
experience, it really I'm delighted that that somebody in a leadership position as prominent as you, as the chairman of JetBlue Airways, that you are in agreement about a lot of this stuff. So we have to wrap up. We're out of time, guys. But thank you so much for participating, everyone. I'm going to choose a grand prize winner right now. So if you haven't commented, if you haven't posted where you're from, if you haven't asked a question, now's your very last chance to win a copy of Joel Peterson's book, Entrepreneurial Leadership. And while we wait, I'm going to take a look at what we've talked about, Joel. This is pretty cool. I want to thank my good friends at ImageThink. ImageThink.net is their website if you want to learn more about how to illustrate the conversations that you're having. And this is pretty darn cool because we have an actual, you talked about a checklist in your book and the roadmap. We have a roadmap of what we talked about today. We've got the checklist, we've got the safety, the airplane, the mountain, the soft skills, the trust, likability. Although my only issue with this, Ariel, is that, of course, I spell likability with an E because of my own companies, but I'll be the first to admit that most people do spell likability without the E. So fair enough. It's a very, very soft critique. No, I absolutely love this. Can you see it, Joel? And if so, any thoughts on the artist rendering?
I can, and I'm so impressed by it. I mean, I want to get a copy of this.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool that they can do this. They can do this.
Amazing. Real time. Yeah.
Oh my
Ariel,
God.
send me a
Oh,
copy.
OMG. Joel, she actually was able to change the spelling of that in real time. Now that is likable and magical even. I literally have no idea how that just happened, but I'm impressed. Okay, I have two more. I have not one, but two winners because I like to surprise and delight, and my team has given me two names. So the final two winners of Entrepreneurial Leadership, The Art of Launching New Ventures, Inspiring Others, and Running Stuff are Steve Metzger and Jackie Peer. Steve Metzger and Jackie Peer, congratulations. Joel, thank you so much for joining us today. I am really, really grateful that you took the time to meet with me and to share some of the insights from your book and your wisdom and from your lifetime of leadership. And I'm thankful to Ariel from ImageThink.net for joining us today. And I'm thankful most of all to all of you guys, the people that tuned in, that are watching, that are commenting, that are sharing. I do truly appreciate each and every one of you. And until next week, next Monday, I'll be back at you with the CEO of Focus Brands, set of restaurant companies. I'm sure we'll have quite a bit to talk about then. Jim from Focus Brands will be with us next week. And until next time, have a super likable day, everyone. Bye-bye.